Hi, it's Wednesday again. Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to fix two of the commonest weaving mistakes that you could possibly make. And we've all done it, and we've all looked at our weaving when we've about 10 centimeters further on, and boom, there we have it, right in the middle of where everybody is going to see it. In the most obvious place, we will have a little float. Whether it's a weft float or whether it's a warp float doesn't seem to really matter. Somehow or other we simply don't pick up on them as we're weaving, and when we look back at our work in admiration, our admiration turns to such disappointment as we see these little guys. How do we deal with them? There's such an easy way to fix your floats. It doesn't involve unweaving and going back the full 10 centimeters so that you can fix the mistake. It's much easier than that, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So here we are. I'm looking at my lovely brightly colored tea towel, and suddenly, let's just zoom in. Whoops, there it is. Can you see it? Right in the middle of the red, my orange is floating over the red. And although I haven't gone 10 centimeters further up, I'm going to show you how you would fix that. Because this is a horizontal float, we know that it is a weft float. That means that our weft has floated, for want of a better word, over an extra warp end. And that's what gives us this little error there. Now, of course, there are ways when we're using pickup sticks and constructing pickup patterns and everything that we actually do that intentionally. But when we don't do it intentionally, it's really infuriating. So in order to fix this little weft float here, I need a thread that is the same color as my warp. And that would be that. So when you're fixing a weft float, you thread your needle with a piece of thread the same color as the warp. And it very simply is a darning process. Nothing more scientific than that. So that's where my little float would be. And I'm just going to follow that warp thread up in its pattern. There I've caught my weft float, and just going to do a couple more on the other side just to anchor it securely in place. I'm going to pull that through. Don't worry about the little tufty bit that's going to be left behind. With washing and with use, that will actually felt itself beautifully into place. If it really bothers you, you can just snip it off. And there we are. There's my weft float dealt with. So the opposite of a weft float is a warp float. All very logical, nothing to argue with there. And if you look in the little purple stripe very close to the selvage, you can see that I have a warp float just there. Now, leaving floats like this doesn't mean that you're a terrible weaver or you have no skill or anything horrible like that. It is very simply a fact of weaving life, and it's going to happen to all of us for as long as we're weaving. So there's my warp float, and in order to darn my warp float into place, as opposed to my weft float darn, which was a vertical darn, here my float is vertical, so my darn must be horizontal. And because it's horizontal, I'm using a piece of thread the same color as my weft, and I'm just going to do exactly what I did the last time around. Just follow that weft thread. Come on. There you go. And I've caught my float, and that's more than enough. And find my snips, snip it off, and there you have it. That is mended. So it looks a little bit obvious as we see it there, but I promise you that when your piece is taken off the loom and it's washed and it's finished, nobody will ever pick up on that as being a problem. I hope this helps. I think that this is the single most common error that we make in weaving. And it's something that happens just because maybe we're not looking, maybe we've got a threading that has sort of twisted our warp threads up a little bit behind the reed, and maybe we're weaving with a sticky yarn. It could be any number of 110 reasons at least that cause you to make a float, either a weft float or a warpwise float, and it's that easy to fix. I hope that helped.